They are not the loudest voices in the room, nor the most eager to claim attention, yet their presence alters the atmosphere itself. Deep thinkers understand that silence has gravity, and they let it pull others into discomfort until truths begin to spill freely. Silence is a blade. The psychology of deep thinkers begins with patience, a virtue most find unbearable but which they wield like a sharpened sword. They resist the urge to interrupt, to fill emptiness, to prove themselves through constant noise, for they know attention comes slower. Patience becomes power. Machiavelli himself lived as such a figure, not only recording politics, but dissecting the very minds that governed kingdoms. He knew men by their weaknesses, not their promises, and he knew princes by their fears more than by their crowns. Fear reveals rulers. Observation is the first weapon of the deep thinker, crafted in silence, honed in stillness, sharpened by endless attention to detail. They notice the break in a voice, the restless shifting of hands, or the eager smile that hides desperation and hunger. Details cut deeper. Where most fear silence, the deep thinker thrives, using it as a mirror to expose those who cannot tolerate being unseen. They let others rush to speak, spilling confessions in their haste to escape the tension of an unanswered pause. Patience forces speech. Machiavelli warned princes not to mistake appearances for truth, for men are performers who wear masks to hide their nature. The deep thinker does not bow to the mask. He watches until it slips, until the truth bleeds through unguarded moments. Masks always break. Reflection is their second weapon, for solitude is not an enemy but a forge where ideas harden into strategies. While ordinary minds seek distraction in noise, the deep thinker cultivates clarity in silence, replaying events until mastery forms. Solitude shapes vision. Machiavelli's writings emerged from long nights of reflection, not quick reactions, but deliberate dissections of power and deceit. He studied patterns in men, how kindness often weakens rulers, how cruelty secures fear, and how appearances outweigh reality. Patterns govern fate. The shallow mind chases immediate answers, but the deep thinker lingers on questions, waiting until the right shape of truth emerges. They understand that time is a battlefield, and he who controls the tempo controls the terms of every interaction. Slowness bends outcomes. For Machiavelli, thought was not idle but strategic rehearsal, a preparation for every possible turn of betrayal or loyalty. Deep thinkers play games before they are played, anticipating moves long before others know they are even in conflict. Foresight wins wars. To understand the psychology of deep thinkers, one must grasp their comfort with uncertainty, their refusal to rush to conclusion. Where shallow minds crave certainty, the thinker learns to sit with tension, waiting until ambiguity itself gives up its secret. Uncertainty is gold. Machiavelli saw how rulers faltered by seeking reassurance, how they feared doubt, and thus became predictable in their decisions. The deep thinker does not flee from doubt but studies it, learning the strength that comes from delaying premature answers. Delay breeds strength. Suspicion is the third weapon, not born from paranoia, but from an understanding that appearances rarely reveal true intentions. Deep thinkers assume motives are layered, and so they peel away each surface until the core desire stands exposed. Suspicion keeps them safe. Machiavelli's eye never trusted the stage of politics, for he knew flattery could be deadlier than open hostility. The thinker never swallows words as they are spoken, but studies the intention dripping beneath the tone and gesture. Every word hides more. They carry the gift of detachment, watching without drowning, hearing without absorbing, seeing without being blinded. Detachment gives them the ability to calculate, to respond with cold clarity rather than with the fog of emotion. Distance is clarity. Most men are slaves to reaction, bound by their anger, their joy, their fear, but deep thinkers loosen these chains. They know emotion is valuable when harnessed, but ruinous when left to dictate the tempo of one's actions. Emotion bends fools. Machiavelli understood the role of appearances, but he also understood the danger of being controlled by them. A deep thinker wears appearances as tools, not identities, shaping perception while remaining untouched by public praise or scorn. Perception is armor. In every room, people reveal themselves through eagerness, through overconfidence, or through the hunger to be accepted. The deep thinker is unmoved by these games, watching quietly until others have committed to positions they cannot escape. The trap sets itself. Machiavelli would say that to truly master politics, one must master. Deep thinkers are not obsessed with being liked, for they understand that the hunger for approval chains men to invisible masters. They know that the need to please dilutes authority, turning powerful figures into servants of other people's opinions. Approval weakens sovereignty. Machiavelli warned that it is better to be feared than loved if one must choose, because love depends on others, but fear depends on you. Deep thinkers study this principle deeply, knowing that attachment to love makes rulers soft and predictable. Dependence breeds weakness. This detachment does not mean cruelty, but clarity, the ability to see through manipulation disguised as affection. Deep thinkers guard themselves against the seduction of flattery, knowing praise is often a leash, not a gift. Flattery poisons rulers. They are suspicious of kindness when it comes too easily, understanding that every favor carries a hidden price. Where shallow minds are blinded by generosity, the thinker dissects motives until the real exchange is revealed. Nothing is free. Machiavelli lived in a world of shifting loyalties, where smiles could conceal daggers and alliances dissolved overnight. He learned to survive by doubting appearances, by assuming betrayal until loyalty proved itself through endurance. Trust is earned slowly. Deep thinkers know that human beings are inconsistent, pulled by desire one day and fear the next, never stable in ambition. They expect contradiction as natural, so they do not waste energy being shocked when men reveal divided motives. Contradiction is normal. The masses cling to certainty, desperate for assurances that people will stay as they appear, but deep thinkers know better. They accept volatility as part of human nature, preparing for it instead of clinging to illusions of permanence. Volatility is truth. Machiavelli observed that fortune changes quickly, and the wise must be ready to adapt rather than resist inevitable tides. Deep thinkers cultivate flexibility of mind, adjusting strategy without losing composure when the world shifts beneath them. Flexibility prevents ruin. They are masters of emotional control, not because they feel less, but because they refuse to be ruled by fleeting reactions. Anger, joy, fear, all are acknowledged, but none are allowed to dictate decisions or expose vulnerabilities. Emotion must obey. The shallow person erupts in anger, betrays his fear, or gushes with excitement, revealing his hand to anyone who observes. The deep thinker waits, masks his inner world, and responds only when his timing grants the greatest advantage. Reaction is slavery. Machiavelli taught rulers to learn how not to be good when circumstances demand it, for goodness can be exploited. The deep thinker lives by this principle, knowing that morality is often a tool used by others to bind and control. Virtue can be shackles. Their morality is not an absence of ethics, but the wisdom of flexibility, the recognition that rigid virtue is vulnerability. They act according to necessity, not dogma, shaping their behavior to the demands of time, place, and strategy. Necessity governs action. The psychology of deep thinkers is rooted in independence. They cannot be swayed easily by the herd or the crowd. They are comfortable standing apart even when ridiculed, because their validation comes from clarity, not applause. Isolation preserves power. Machiavelli himself was mocked, even despised by some, but his writings endured centuries beyond his critics' laughter. The thinker plays the long game, knowing that truth and influence ripen with time while shallow popularity withers quickly. Time buries noise. They often appear aloof, not because they despise people, but because they are busy studying the mechanics of interaction. Their distance creates mystery, and mystery itself becomes a form of power, making others curious, cautious, and even fearful. Mystery builds aura. To understand their psychology is to understand restraint, the refusal to reveal too much too soon, the art of holding back. They know every revelation is a transaction, and information, once given, cannot be reclaimed again. Information is currency. Machiavelli valued secrecy, advising rulers to cloak their intentions so opponents could never predict their next move. Deep thinkers apply this rule constantly, speaking less, revealing little, and letting others remain in a fog of uncertainty. Opacity protects strength. Where most chase attention, deep thinkers withdraw it, making their presence rare enough to increase its value. Scarcity magnifies impact, turning every appearance, every word, into something heavier than constant chatter. Rarity increases weight. They know that people crave predictability, but they deny it, for predictability is the death of leverage and control. By remaining unreadable, they keep others on edge, unable to anticipate, always cautious in their approach. Unpredictability breeds fear. Machiavelli observed that men are quick to trust patterns, and so breaking patterns becomes the highest form of mastery. The deep thinker occasionally disrupts expectations, reminding others that he cannot be mapped or domesticated. Surprise creates dominance. Detachment, suspicion, memory, and unpredictability form their shield, but vision is their sword, cutting into the future. They project beyond the moment, seeing the consequences of choices before others have even considered them. Foresight crowns power. They play out scenarios in their mind like a strategist studies maps, tracing every possible path before committing to one. This foresight makes them steady when others panic, calm when Machiavelli understood that politics was not about today, but about tomorrow, not about what is said, but what is coming. The thinker adopts this same horizon, always measuring decisions by their long-term ripples, never by short gratification. Shallow gains kill futures. Thus, the psychology of deep thinkers is not passive, it is active in hidden ways, preparing silently for storms. They fight wars in the mind before they erupt in reality, rehearsing outcomes until victory feels inevitable. Preparation is destiny. They are immune to the fever of urgency, for they know haste is the enemy of accuracy, and speed without vision is suicide. By slowing down, they force others into mistakes, while their own steps remain deliberate, precise, and unshaken. Haste destroys rulers. Machiavelli said, "The fox and the lion must both live in the ruler, the fox to see traps, the lion to frighten wolves." Deep thinkers embody this balance, using intellect to avoid snares and authority to ensure they are never prey. Cunning completes strength. Yet they are not heartless, they feel deeply, but they place feeling in its proper place, below clarity and control. Emotion becomes a servant rather than a master, a tool rather than a chain, a resource rather than a ruler. Emotion must serve. The psychology of deep thinkers reveals a paradox. They appear slow, yet they are faster than anyone because they plan. They appear detached, yet they are more connected than most because they see beneath every mask of society. They know the game. Machiavelli's lessons echo through their behavior. Control appearances, study motives, bend time, and master perception. They do not seek fairness, for fairness is a myth. They seek control, for control is the only. Deep thinkers are architects of influence, building invisible frameworks of power while others get lost in noise. They seldom act openly. When they do, it is after every angle has been weighed and every risk calculated. They move once and with purpose. Machiavelli admired the skill to conceal intentions, to strike unexpectedly, and to stay unreadable until the moment of action. Deep thinkers never reveal their plans prematurely, for a disclosed strategy is already a defeated one. Secrecy safeguards strength. They are not tempted by fleeting popularity, knowing the same crowd that cheers today may betray tomorrow. Instead of chasing applause, they nurture resilience, a steady independence that weathers the shifting winds of opinion. Crowds are unreliable. The thinker values quality over quantity, preferring one powerful ally to 1,000 shallow admirers. They understand trust's weight, loyalty's value, and the peril of being owned by the masses. Few outweigh many. Machiavelli warned that reliance on the people's love is dangerous. Love is fragile and easily withdrawn. The deep thinker braces for abandonment, rooting himself in strength that demands no constant validation. Self is a fortress. Their psychology is layered: outer silence, inner fire, hidden suspicion, and flexible morality. These layers defy penetration. Every step closer reveals another shield, another level of caution. Complexity confounds spies. To the shallow, deep thinkers seem cold, but their coldness is not absence of heart, it is mental discipline. They feel deeply but do not flaunt it. They love without collapse. They trust but prepare for betrayal. Controlled warmth endures. Machiavelli lived in exile, stripped of power and dignity, yet his mind forged works that outlast centuries. This resilience defines deep thinkers. They rise from loss because their foundation is internal clarity, not external acclaim. Exile fuels fire. They are students of history, knowing human nature repeats endlessly across time and place. By studying betrayals, wars, and schemes, they forecast the future-seeing cycles where others see chaos. History is a mirror. Machiavelli analyzed Rome, Florence, and countless rulers to expose patterns of ambition and downfall. Deep thinkers do the same in daily life, tracing family, politics, and business motives until truth is clear. Patterns never lie. Their psychology is cyclical. They see life not as isolated events but as spirals of recurring behavior. What seems new to others feels familiar to them. Familiarity breeds calm where others panic. Cycles soothe clarity. They sharpen awareness of mortality, knowing life's brevity demands strategy. While others waste time, deep thinkers compress it, turning every decision into a vital investment. Mortality enforces urgency. Machiavelli saw fortune as an unpredictable flood, destroying the unprepared but sparing the fortified. Deep thinkers build internal defenses, ready long before disaster strikes, minimizing shock and surprise. Preparedness defies fate. They rarely reveal all they know, for knowledge given too soon becomes ammunition for rivals. Instead, they welcome underestimation, knowing low expectations cloak true power. Underestimation is armor. The shallow crave recognition. Thinkers seek advantage, often found best in shadows. They let others claim credit while they quietly hold the strings of unseen influence. Influence surpasses credit. Machiavelli knew this well. Though labeled cynical, his ideas silently guided rulers for centuries. Deep thinkers need no public praise when private truths already command outcomes. Truth outlasts applause. Their psychology embraces resilience in suffering, seeing pain not as defeat but teacher. Every wound yields data, betrayal sharpens insight, and failure fuels future attempts. Pain instructs power. They wear scars like scriptures, lessons etched deep, crafting philosophies stronger. They live by detachment, not withdrawal, but refusal to be enslaved by the temporary. Money, status, approval may be tools but never chains. Detachment secures freedom. For Machiavelli, detachment meant loyalty to necessity, not sentiment, choosing survival over vanity. Deep thinkers wield this ruthlessness inwardly, cutting away weakness before it becomes a threat. Self-discipline is weapon. Their psychology is feared because it resists control. Their silence withstands pressure. Their patience defeats traps. Others exhaust themselves against the wall of restraint while deep thinkers watch in stillness. Stillness drains foes. Mystery is their shield. Unknown terrifies more than open threats, causing others to imagine dangers that may not exist. Revealing little, they let myths amplify their power. Mystery magnifies fear. Machiavelli taught rulers to avoid hatred, but cultivate fear when needed. Fear commands obedience. Deep thinkers wield fear subtly, not with noise or threats, but through silence, unpredictability, and restraint. Fear wears silence well. Their presence unsettles rooms no armies needed to command, only the invisible force of composure and unreadability. Others sense the calculation in their eyes, the weight of restraint, and feel unease without knowing why. Presence becomes power. Thus, the psychology of deep thinkers is both personal and political, shaping how societies respond. Their detachment, vision, and silence spread, bending allies and foes alike. Psychology becomes empire. Deep thinkers are rare. Most cannot endure silence, solitude, suspicion, or independence without fracturing. Discipline holds mystery. Patience resists validation. Clarity survives without applause. Rarity is strength. Machiavelli would say these minds are dangerous not for cruelty, but immunity, immune to seduction, fear, and traps that ensnare ordinary men. Immunity is power. They remain invisible kings across ages, writers, philosophers, strategists living beyond their time, bending perception, rewriting rules, unmoved while crowds shift like sand. They rule unseen.